Well, we'll get started and welcome everyone. It's lovely to see you all. I was saying it's a lovely day today in the DC metro area, and hope you're having a good weekend wherever you are. We have quite a few folks from outside of our immediate area, and including Canada and sometimes Europe as well. So great to be with you. My name is Hugh Byrne, and I've been teaching with the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, IMCW, for 20 years now. Started in 2003. I've been teaching it since 2000. And the class is sponsored by IMCW and the Center for Mindful Living, which is part of IMCW and very much has a lively online and also some in-person presence. We used to have a center in Tenley Town, but with COVID, we had to let that go. But doing more things in person now, kind of get more back into that. But we'll obviously keep the online sessions going because so many are joining us from other places. And so it's really good to be with you all today. I've been teaching this class really on Sunday morning going back to 2000, and so regularly, this time on a Sunday. And we've kind of broadened it out in the last 6 months or so. I typically teach the first and third Sundays of the month, and Regina Flanagan normally teaches the fourth. And we have a guest teacher or a Sangha-led session typically on the second Sunday of the month. I think I got my order right there. And the format of the class is fairly straightforward. We typically begin with, it may vary a little bit from teacher to teacher, but I like to begin with a meditation, a few words of introduction, a meditation, 20 minutes or so, and then a talk, typically 30 minutes, not too much longer than that, hopefully. And then time for, we have some mindful movement that Emily normally leads us in, and Kirsten is going to lead today after the talk. And then we'll have some time for some sharing, questions, maybe a short meditation to finish up, and then some announcements. So that's kind of the run of the show, as it were. And we also, it's really up to the teacher, but we try to finish by 12 noon pretty promptly, and then folks can stay on, and we may have some small groups or some sharing in the full group after 12, and that's obviously, it's all optional, of course, but that's after the formal end of the class if folks want to stay around for that. We'll see how it goes today. We'll probably stay around for a bit afterwards for those who would like to. So again, welcome to everyone. Welcome to all of you joining us. It's really both an opportunity for us to practice, to take some time to come home to ourselves, and to reflect on the teachings of the Buddha, and how they can support us in our lives, and to do it in community. And that's really much of the richness of this time together, is being together with others, supporting each other in our practice and in our sharing and in our time together. So with that, as I say, please feel free to share anything. Welcome if you're new. Welcome to everyone, and particularly welcome those who are joining us for the first time. So we'll begin with a meditation. I'll just say a couple of words before we get into the meditation. The theme today, I sent a message out yesterday afternoon on the listserv for the Center for Mindful Living. The theme today is trusting in the difficult, trusting in the difficult, which for me is really at the heart of our practice, turning towards what's not so easy, not so pleasant, and how it can really help free our hearts. So kind of want to focus on that theme in both the talk and somewhat in the meditation as well. So, as we start the meditation, just find a posture that's comfortable for you. In the Buddhist teachings, there are 4 foundational kind of postures. Sitting, standing, walking, and reclining, lying down. Most of us will be doing this meditation in a sitting posture, but if you find it more helpful to do it lying down, or if you're somewhere where you're out in nature taking a walk and listening, that can work as well. It's about being present in the body, in the heart, and in the mind. So take some moments to find a posture where you're relaxed and comfortable. If you'd like to, you can let your eyes close, let your attention come inward. And you might consciously drop out of the thinking mode, the planning, reflecting, remembering mode, and just come into the body. Drop your attention down into the body. Taking your seat, maybe inviting the shoulders to relax, letting the hands settle on your lap or on your knees or your thighs, wherever they're comfortable. Just feel your body in contact with the surface beneath you. The contact of your skin with the air around you, maybe warm or cool. Contact of one part of your body with another, the hands with the lap or the knees or with each other. Just feeling the body from the inside. Letting yourself arrive, putting aside thoughts of the future or the past. You can always come back to those later. And if they do come up, you can just choose to let them go and be present with whatever's here right now. The pressure, the warmth, tingling, pulsing, coolness, hardness. You might let your breathing help you to settle into being here. It can be helpful to take a few longer, deeper breaths. Nice deep full in breath. Chest filling the lungs. Just a brief pause and then releasing, letting go on the out breath. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. the Buddha's instructions on mindfulness of breathing, which are the first of a number of practices in the foundations of mindfulness. He says, just breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. Just this awareness of breathing. He says, breathing in, being aware of the entire body, and breathing out, being aware of the whole body. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the body. Letting your breathing help you settle into being here. And whenever you're ready, letting the breath settle into its natural rhythm. Just breathing in, breathing out. And the invitation to meet whatever is present with kindness and with acceptance. If anything feels difficult, going on, some agitation in this moment, you might find it helpful to put your hand on your heart, maybe the other hand on the belly, just letting this gesture of kindness and care help you to hold whatever is present right now. Hold yourself with kindness. And you might find it helpful to just let your attention rest on the breath, the sensations of breathing in and breathing out. The breath can be a very helpful home base for us. It's where we rest our attention. And there can be a lot going on around the breath. Thoughts come up, emotions, sensations. But we can ground ourselves in just this awareness of the breath, the body breathing. And when we get pulled into stories, narratives, plans, memories, once we recognize and notice that we've gone off, we can just gently and kindly come back to the breath, come back to the body. If you need a little more support, you could just note in for the in-breath and out for the out-breath, just to give your mind something else to just focus on, counter the tendency of the mind to just drift in as the breath enters the nostrils and out as release the breath through the mouth or the nose. Or if you're aware of your breath at the torso, at the belly or the chest, you could just note rise as the belly expands, the chest expands, and then fall as the breath is released. Just if it's helpful. When you notice the mind has gone off, you find yourself thinking about the future or the past, daydreams, plans, memories. You can just pause. No problem that the mind has gone off. Just choosing to redirect your attention back to the body and the breath. You're doing that gently and kindly, coming back. This is very much part of the meditation, not a problem, not a failing or an aberration. Just the mind will go off, and just when we notice, we come back, and when we do that, we strengthen this capacity. We build the muscle of awareness, of attention. If you find yourself experiencing anything difficult, painful, or challenging, and maybe there's a strong emotion present, maybe worry or fear or grief or sadness or anger. When you become aware of that, let your attention go to that place of difficulty. And then maybe some thoughts of, say, sadness. See if, rather than getting into the story of why you might be sad, allow yourself to open to the feelings. Where do you feel that in your body? Allow yourself to feel maybe around the heart or around the eyes. Letting yourself open to what's present with kindness, with care, with acceptance. Making space for whatever is here. Experiencing the sensations in the body, feelings. Opening to what's present. And as Rilke, the poet, says, always trust in the difficult. He says if we can remember to the principle to always trust in the difficult, then what now appears to us as the most alien will become our most intimate and trusted experience. There's a wisdom in opening fully to and wholeheartedly to what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. If there's fear, can we open to how that is expressing itself in us? The tightness, the tension, the going into fight or flight. Just allow ourselves to feel what's present. Let it come, let it go. When the sensations, emotions, feelings lessen or pass, we can then just come back to the body, come back to the breath, come back to our anchor. In breath and out breath. I'll finish off the meditation with a little bit longer quote from, this is one of Rilke's letters to a young poet, responding to a young poet, talking here about trusting in the difficult. We have no reason to harbour any mistrust against our world, for it is not against us. If it has terrors, they are our terrors. If it has abysses, these abysses belong to us. If there are dangers, we must try to love them. And if we can remember to the principle which tells us we must always trust in the difficult, then what now appears to us as the most alien will become our most intimate and trusted experience. How could we forget those ancient myths that stand at the beginning of all races, the myths about dragons that at the last moment are transformed into princesses? Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage. Perhaps everything that frightens us is, in its deepest essence, something helpless that wants our love. Perhaps everything that frightens us is, in its deepest essence, something helpless that wants our love. Take your time coming back. Welcome anyone who, few folks joined us during the meditation. Welcome to you. And I just noticed your sharing, Cassie, that you had an amazing book cake yesterday. I haven't been to a book cake. The celebration on your new books. Congratulations on that. That's wonderful. And Cassie shared a link in the chat there to that. And so welcome everyone. Welcome those joining us. As I mentioned, the theme today, and with the kind of beginning with a quote from Rilke, of trusting in the difficult, to talk about today. It's been very much on my mind and in my heart. I've found myself in the past, I think, not trusting in the difficult, seeing the difficult as something to, like, no, this shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. I don't want this right now. And learning, remembering that isn't the pathway to freedom and to happiness. And so I want to reflect on this today and kind of invite your reflections, if you would like to, how if and how it resonates for you, this theme of trusting in the difficult. I think it's one of the most important skills and practices in Dharma practice, in meditation practice, in the Buddha's on the Buddha's path, is this seeing the difficulties as the path. That there's a quote in Carlos Castaneda's a book of one of his books on Don Juan, the Yaqui sorcerer. Whatever you might think of Carlos Castaneda, there's a lot of controversy around him, but he certainly had some very wise things to say, or Don Juan did, or whatever. But he said one of the things he said, it was that the ordinary person kind of treats everything as a blessing or a curse. The spiritual warrior, a practitioner, that's the language he used, but somebody who's on a path of of spiritual practice sees everything as a challenge. Everything as a challenge or an opportunity rather than a blessing or a curse. The tendency is, oh, this is great, wonderful, we need more of this. Oh, this is terrible, we need less of that. And so it's the kind of ups and downs, and we get kind of tossed around by the exigencies, the vicissitudes of life, whereas the wisdom lies in being able to negotiate both the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, the joys and the sorrows with an equal mind and heart. I mean, that's what equanimity is, isn't it? It's that finding the balance. It's being able to open to the joys and to the sorrows of life, because we'll experience both and all. So to see what we normally relate to as problems or difficulties, things that we want to be different than they are, as an essential part of waking up and finding, experiencing freedom from suffering. I think even more than a skill or a practice, seeing the difficulties as part of the path or an essential part of the path is actually a whole orientation to our life and to our experience. It's a kind of way of being in the world. When we experience difficulties or unpleasant situations or people that we feel are a pain in the butt or whatever situations, I don't like this, our tendency is to push them away, avoid them, get rid of them. I don't like this, I don't want this. Just as we pull towards us, I like this, I want more of that, more of this. And there's much in our evolution, our survival, modes of survival of our ancestors that move us, in that direction towards getting more of the good things and fewer of the bad things, less of the bad things. But when we approach the world and approach our life with this as our fundamental orientation, with the kind of more of this and less of that kind of orientation, moving towards the pleasant and away from the unpleasant, it's not a path that will lead to happiness, to freedom. Because we'll be just tossed around by life. Life happens to give us, more goodies than, it seems to be well, until they start moving in the opposite direction. The Buddha's teachings point to a freedom that is not dependent on conditions, that provides the space of mind and heart to open to whatever life is bringing, life from the outside plus whatever's going on in our minds and our hearts, to be able to meet it all with an equal mind, with an equal heart, in a balanced way. So when we take as our way of being in the world, our orientation or our way of seeing, the difficulties, the obstacles, the hindrances are actually where we wake up. Then the difficulties become a doorway to freedom. This is what Rilke means when he says always trust in the difficult. That if something is pushing our buttons, if something is, this colleague at work, they're just giving us a hard time, they're mean, they're saying things behind, whatever it is, or this family member who's sending out those emails that we disagree with so much, all of this, we kind of get wrapped around the axle about this. Why are they doing this? All of that. We get kind of hooked on that. And then we get caught up in the storyline, don't we? They need to be different. I won't be happy unless they change, unless they stop doing this. And then all the stories we get around that. But there's no freedom in that, because even if that person leaves, somebody else will come along and take their place, because the problem was never really the person. That's not to say there aren't difficult people. We all know that there are. We can probably be them at times ourselves, but that's a reality. But if we're getting hooked, there's something that we're doing. There's a way we're approaching our experience that isn't skillful, that isn't helpful. This is really the Buddha's teachings of the Four Noble Truths. I've been talking about this in recent sessions, classes. When we experience suffering when we're clinging, when we're wanting things to be the way we want them to be. Not just in a general way of, I'd like to see that, or not just in an intentional way of I'd like to see more of this and less than that. But when we get hooked around wanting things to be a certain way, wanting things to be different if we don't like them, then we suffer. Then we experience suffering. And so the teachings, really, what I'm talking about, and in a way what probably all Dharma talks come back to, is the Four Noble Truths, is how do we release ourselves? How do we untangle ourselves from suffering? You might think about it in your own experience. Where do you tend to get hooked? I think we all have our proclivities, our ways that we get kind of wrapped around the axle. We get caught up. You might think for yourself, what is it for you? Is it, annoying people not doing things the way you want them to be, want them to do, or wanting something you don't have. I want to be in a relationship, and again, the kind of craving and clinging around that. Nothing wrong with wanting to be in a relationship by any means, but when the mind kind of contracts around it, then it becomes problematical, and it expresses itself as suffering. So, what you might think for you, as I'm talking this morning, what is it for you? Do you have your own, your particular ways where you tend to get hooked? And is there, or are there ways in which you might relate to that difficulty, that problem, that challenging area of life in a different way, that you might shift your view, your way you're experiencing it? I found in my own practice, particularly in the recent months, just a more conscious intention that when something difficult comes up, I kind of say, this is a place to pay attention. I notice the tendency in my mind, I don't want this. I don't like this right now. I don't like, this waiting in this long line, or whatever it might be that's kind of annoying us or frustrating us, that we don't like this. Okay, that's a kind of a flashing light, or it's a mindfulness bell that says, okay, pay attention. There's something to look at here. There's something to pay attention to. And there's something to be with, to open to in our experience that we're not looking at, that we're not really paying attention to, because we're getting caught up in, in the story that this should be different. I don't want this. I don't like this. They should be different. I want more of this. I want less of this. So it's really it's saying yes where we would typically say no. So I'm saying really that the difficult provides the perfect conditions to free ourselves from clinging and suffering. And what needs to be said, and what I want to say is, it's not easy, because if it was easy, it wouldn't be difficult. It's difficult because it's like, this is not what we're wanting. So it's not. I'm not kind of saying, oh yeah, just be with this really painful experience. It's not easy to do, and so we really do need a whole kind of range of practices and trainings of the heart and mind to help us to the difficult, to be with the difficult. And I don't know how much I'll be able to get into them today, but I'd just flag a couple right now that I think are really, really important. First is self-compassion, just kind of, as we did in the meditation, or if I invited you to do, of like, if something's difficult is coming up, see, can you hold that? Hold yourself with kindness, just the hand on the heart, hand on the chest, or, giving yourself a hug, and, maybe sending yourself a wish of loving kindness or compassion to yourself. That's one powerful way of kind of giving yourself the space to hold what's challenging and painful. Another really is the training in the calming of the mind and the heart. The practice of samadhi, it's often called concentration, but it's really about calming the mind. And the more we are able to access states of calm and well-being, the more they can become a resource for us in times of challenge and in times of difficulty. I've quoted often before Rob Barbet, a wonderful teacher who died 3 years ago, Dharma teacher. He often spoke about creating an inner reservoir of well-being. An inner reservoir of well-being. I love that metaphor, where we can reach into the depths of our, of experiences of calm and well-being that can help us hold and be with the difficult experiences. So when we say yes to the difficult, when we, as Rilke says, when we trust in the difficult, it provides really the perfect conditions for practice. So, for example, if we're feeling sad, rather than getting into the story of, I wish I wasn't feeling so sad, or I'm so sad, I wish the relationship hadn't ended, I wish my life was working out better than it is. And getting into the stories of sadness that just kind of compound it and add second and third arrows to the pain that's actually there. There's the sadness is there. Rather than doing that and getting lost in the stories, we can say yes. We can turn towards the difficulties. We can open to, how does that feel? How does the sadness feel in my body? Open to that, allow ourselves to feel it. How does it feel around the heart, around the eyes? If tears come, to say yes to this tears, but without getting lost in a story about, often a negative story about, things are going to be bad and nothing's going to change, and all the way our minds can create those scenarios. Being aware when we do go into self-judgment and thoughts of judging ourselves or other narratives, and let them go and just make space for everything with an attitude of kindness and acceptance. So typically we live our lives really caught up in pushing and pulling, pushing towards what we want, we like. And when this is our orientation, the lens with which we look at and experience the world, then we suffer. You know, I've talked about. On the other side, you know, conversely, when our orientation is to see the difficulties as the path, in Zen they say, make the obstacle the path. You know, so when we see that, oh, this is difficult, this is painful, then that becomes the kind of the light going on, the flashing light. Say, okay, pay attention here. You know, like the treasure map of the buried treasure. You know, dig here. You know, with the X on. You know, not X on, X on. Yeah, X on. You know, same. Pay attention here. Pay attention to the difficulties, and then what really changes is that nothing is inherently a problem, because what would typically arise as a problem is actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity to wake up. It's an opportunity to see where we're holding, where we're really creating suffering, where are clinging to something, wanting this to be a certain way, wanting this to be different, how that's creating and perpetuating our suffering. And when we see that, we can let go. So every becomes an opportunity. And if you think about that, that really is a very different way of practicing, a very different way of being in the world. You know, because you can go into everything as, okay, this is a challenge. This is something to pay attention to. It's not a blessing. It's not a curse. It's, you know, how things are unfolding. And it's a path to happiness, a path to well-being. Always trusting in the difficult. James Baldwin, the great playwright, poet, author, civil rights activist, he says, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it's faced. So all of our practice really points towards this turning towards our experience, facing the things that we find challenging, we find difficult. You know, I often also quote the Carl Jung's, you know, what is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate. You know, that if we don't bring the difficulties into awareness and really take a look closely at, you know, what's underneath this, what's giving rise to this being painful, this being difficult, then we tend to just perpetuate, you know, the resistance, the avoiding of our experience. Madhan says, the secret to happiness is to acknowledge and transform suffering, not to run away from it. So the secret to our happiness is to acknowledge and transform suffering, not to run away from it. So that ending suffering really comes through opening to the suffering and seeing our own role in the creation and the perpetuation of our suffering. So we do try and, you know, we try and avoid the things we don't like, run away from it, cover the difficulties up. But Tigran says, unless we're able to face our suffering, we can't be present and available to life, and happiness will continue to elude us. So is there something for you in your life at this time that feels like, oh, this feels difficult, I wish this were different? Is there a way that you can approach that allows you to really to trust in the difficult, to make the difficulty into the place of opening? You know, what happens when you get below the stories of this should be different, and just drop down into your direct experience and allow everything to come, to go, to be experienced? Pema Chodron, the wonderful Tibetan tradition teacher, American-born Tibetan Buddhist teacher, you know, she talks about, I've spoken about this in other sessions, about this Tibetan word term in Tibetan and Tibetan Buddhism, Shenpa, S-H-E-N, N for Norman, Shenpa, as a, you know, as an expression of really being hooked, you know, and how we can work with being hooked. Now, I've often talk about, you know, how we get caught up in a tangle. You know, we get tangled. We're wanting things to be the way we want them to be. We're not, you know, we're not liking the way that things are. And she has a practice of, you know, 4 R's for working with, you know, when we are hooked. You know, and the first is just to recognize that this is what's present. Recognize the Shenpa. Recognize the, you know, the itchiness of the situation. And to choose. Second is to refrain from scratching. You know, because what we do is we scratch the itch. You know, we suffer and then we compound it. You know, we want this to be different. We compound it with this scratching. So to refrain, recognize, refrain. And then she says, relax into the urge to scratch and allow the feelings to come and go without actually kind of acting on them. Relax. Recognize, refrain, relax. And then resolve to continue to practice in this way, to interrupt our habitual patterns. So the invitation really is to view the difficulties, view the suffering as a signal and as an opportunity to wake up, to pay attention and to investigate, to look at, okay, what's happening here? What's going on? Can I feel this feeling? Can I open fully to my experience? You know, to experience the wanting or the aversion or the confusion, you know, rather than, you know, getting lost in the story that this should be different, this shouldn't be happening. You know, what we're doing when we turn towards the difficulty is really we're taking refuge in the Dharma. We're taking refuge in the truth, because the truth is that this is here right now. And we're experiencing it as difficult, as problematical, as, you know, wanting to be different. So that's the truth. And if we're avoiding it, you know, getting drunk or spacing out or spending all our time on video games or binge watching, you know, something, you know, Succession or something, you know, whatever it might be. I haven't seen it myself, but wow, that's a long share. I'll check that later. Then we're not taking refuge in the Dharma. We're avoiding, you know, in much of our life we tend to, you know, avoid the difficulties. We want to push them away. So taking refuge in the truth. This is what's here. Can I open to this? Can I be present with this? And this taking refuge is really the path for finding our way out of suffering, out of out of the difficulties, out of the the experience of suffering, of dukkha. Tara Brach shared this from Rumi, and just I saw it in one of her letting people know about things going on. This is from Rumi. Life's water flows from darkness. Search the darkness, don't run from it. Night travelers are full of light, and you are too. Don't leave this companionship. Life's water flows from darkness. Search the darkness, don't run from it. Night travelers are full of light, and you are too. Don't leave this companionship. It's not easy. We have, excuse me, we often have years of habits that are pretty entrenched that help us avoid experiencing the difficult, opening to the difficult, trusting the difficult. We have we've become very skilled at avoiding feeling our feelings, most of us a lot of the time. And so it's not easy. It does call for a training, and that's what we do, the training of the heart and the mind, the training in mindfulness, in self-compassion, in loving kindness, in focusing the mind, in concentration, in balancing, in equanimity, finding balance, in cultivating wise understanding and wise intention and wise effort. All of these are ways in which we kind of build the container that will allow us to hold what is difficult. Because it's a truism to say it's not easy. If it's difficult, it's not easy. One of the things that can be quite helpful is to begin with the smaller things. Begin with the itches, the literal itches, that we want to scratch, the things that that we're feeling like, oh, I don't like this. I'm too cold. I'm too hot, too, achy or too tired or whatever. And just rather than getting the storyline, allow ourselves to actually drop down into the direct experience. Say, how would it be to feel this without moving away or getting caught up in the story of how it should be different? How it be just to stay with this. And in the training of perhaps in the smaller things, we build that strength to be able to meet the, it's all relative and in a sense a little meaningless to talk about big and small, because, letting go is letting go and being caught is being caught, and but some things can seem like bigger mountains than others. And so it can be helpful to just train ourselves. How would it be to let go of this? Ajahn Chah has often shared, speaks about letting go a little and experiencing a little freedom, and letting go a lot and experiencing a lot of freedom and peace. And then the ultimate peace of letting go completely, ending our struggles with the world. So that training of the heart and the mind. And Eckhart Tolle says, wrote The Power of Now, you can always cope with the present moment. And this is really the challenge, or this is our practice, is I don't have to deal with everything, for the next 50 years or 10 years or whatever. I just need to be able to open to this moment and this moment and this moment, just moment to moment to moment. Can I say yes to this? Can I be with this difficult moment? And then we'll find, if we're paying attention with kindness, we'll find that moment things will shift, maybe not so obviously at first, but when we stay, we say, oh, that difficult feeling, that sadness now has gone away for a while. Now it's come back again, but then it becomes that moment. Can I ride this wave and this wave? Can I be with this? And then it becomes just this. Can I be with this now? So you can always cope with the present moment, but you can't cope with something that's just a mind projection. Because there'll be a new mind projection and a new mind projection. He says you cannot cope with the future. The future is just, is just a creation of our mind. We don't know tomorrow. It's like, oh, this will happen tomorrow. Yeah, maybe, and the sun probably will come up tomorrow. Good chance. But, we don't know. We really don't know. We don't know if we'll be going to be around for it, do we? That's the fundamental edge on which life hangs, that we just don't know. And if we can open to that, open and be present with it, be present with this present moment, be present here for what's alive, what's here right now. We can always cope with the present moment. Not that we always will, but we have the capacity, we have the potential. So, I invite you to, just to finish up, invite you to think about, what is it? Where is your edge? Do you feel challenged? Where do you feel pushed, like wanting this to be different? I don't want this, or I do want this. And feel yourself somehow, tangled in that, hooked on that, that wanting. And what would it be like to really, in a genuine, wholehearted way, to turn towards the difficulty, with kindness, with a lot of self-compassion and with awareness, and say, can I just be with this? Can I open to this moment as it is? Peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Thank you for your question there, Neil. I think that absolutely, that you said, do you view rain as a specific way of expressing or approaching this idea of becoming intimate with difficulties and transforming them ultimately? Absolutely, that's a wonderful practice. If recognize, allow, investigate. Tara Brach's version is nurture. Nurture the compassion with all that's arising. Michelle McDonald's and not identify. Not to get hooked in it, but to kind of let it come and go. But yeah, that's a wonderful practice. Check Tara Brach's books for that practice, and others as well. Rain. Always still. So I'll leave it there, and we can continue the discussion after the movement for a little bit, and then perhaps after 12 for a while. So I hope that there's something helpful there to reflect on in your own life and in your own practice. And thank you for your kind attention. And I'll pass it over to Kirsten to lead us in some movement. Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you so much, Hugh. What a beautiful talk. What a beautiful talk. So if you can, go ahead and stand up, and let's just stretch. So I'm just going to breathe in. Feel your feet on the earth. Feel your hands coming above your head. Bring your hands down to your heart in prayer. Breathe in again. Hands together at the top and breathing out as you come down. Once again, really feel, and you can do these if you can't stand, you can do these in your chair, breathing in, hands down. So the breath is such a beautiful way to, calm the body. If you are having a difficult moment, breathing in, come up, but bringing you back to the present moment. Feel those feet on the earth. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and we're going to bring our hands overhead. I'm going to do mirror here. So I'm going to grab my right wrist, press into my right foot, and lean to the left. So our side body helps us to feel balanced. So really press into that right foot as you lean to the left. Breathing in, beautiful. Come back to center. Bring those hands back down. Breathing out. Shoot that left arm up to the sky. Bring your right hand to it. Draw it. Press into that left foot. Lean to the right. Feeling that side body stretch. I know this is what I was needing today, so hopefully it's helpful for everyone else here today. Coming back to center, drawing those hands back down. And I meant to start my clock so I can do it. Let's go ahead and bring our left hand behind our right arm and just draw it across our body. Let's open up that shoulder blade in the back, breathing in, breathing out, and then just leaning to the left. Opening it up a little further. Once again, all these can be done in a chair. You don't have to stand. Feel your butt on the chair if you're there. Beautiful, relax. Bringing that left arm across, bring that right hand behind your arm and opening up that shoulder blade and back. Breathing in, breathing out, and then leaning to the right. Beautiful. Nice. So going ahead and I'm going to come to center. Let's work on our lower back just a little bit. I'm going to go bend forward. My hands are above my knees. And we're just going to do some cat-cow standing. So I'm just going to curl my spine back, shoulders forward, breathing out, and then roll it all back, open the chest forward, breathe in. And then just do it a couple of times. Once again, you can do this in a chair. Coming back, let's just open that spine. Breathing out as you curl forward. Breathing in as you bring it forward. Back and forth. Find your pace. Pause anywhere where it feels good. And then pause and just press into those feet and come back to standing. Let's go ahead and roll those shoulders back. Roll them forward. Beautiful, nice. Let's go ahead and take those cactus arms. Feeling those feet, just be really mindful of your feet on the floor. Press into those big toe mounds so you feel your presence here. And then just dropping the hands down, keeping those elbows up. Making sure you're breathing when you do it, hands back up. And then drop them down. Up, down, up, and down one more time, up. Beautiful, and then stretch those hands up and overhead again, grabbing that right resting ground, pressing in that right foot, leaning to the left. And hopefully you'll notice it's a little more open this time now that you've been up and moving or sitting down and moving. Right, breathe in, grab the opposite wrist, press into that left foot, lean to the right. Beautiful, coming back to center, bringing those arms down, lovely. So let's go ahead and open those shoulders a little bit more, clasp the hands behind your back, roll your elbows in. You can stay right here and just kind of look towards the sky. If you want a little more, you can draw the hands down, draw the hands behind. Looking up. And then releasing. Find your breath. Find your breath. And then maybe doing it again, drawing those elbows together, shoulders down, draw the hands behind. Beautiful. Breathing in, maybe looking up, and if that does not feel good on your neck, just keep your head neutral. And then release those hands. Beautiful. So we're going to do a forward fold. So sorry, I'm going to come out of camera a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and you'll pause wherever you need to. I can come down a little bit. You can see the top of my chair here. So hands above your knees, and then you're going to slowly come down. And if going all the way forward doesn't work, you can always bring your forearms to your knees and just pause there. Or you can go all the way down, wherever that feels good, just drawing your hands along the front of your legs, bowing forward. And once again, this can be done in your chair. You'll just keep your rear connected to the chair, feeling that. Beautiful. And just let your body drape down wherever it can. Once again, if that does not feel good, you can have those elbows on your thighs for support. Breathing in, breathing out, and then slowly rolling up, one vertebra at a time. Bringing those shoulders back, coming forward, and I'm going to pause here. So hands at heart. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. Lovely to get into our bodies. Come here. So let's take a few minutes. If there's things that, excuse me, anything anyone would like to share, and please feel free to share in the chat. I'll take a look at those, and also if anyone would like to raise a hand and share or ask a question, and we'll continue. We'll just take a few minutes here, but we'll continue for a while after 12 for anyone who would like to stay to kind of discuss things more or share some more. So let's see. Let me see. And am I don't see. Okay. Right. See anything in the chat? Jenna has a question from a little bit before, a little bit earlier. How do we find a space between taking responsible action for something that is genuinely not right, all right, and needs attending, and still not get stuck in the undercurrent, the hook of wanting that thing to be different, if that makes sense? That's an absolutely central question, really, isn't it? Because, as I often emphasize, these teachings are certainly not teachings of passivity, of kind of like, just be a doormat, accept whatever it is, It's what the teachings are really pointing to is, it could be expressed in the serenity prayer, of changing what can be changed and accepting what can't be changed, and the wisdom to know the difference. But definitely there'll be situations that we will want to do whatever we can to change, that we see as harmful or unjust. Where would we be if people hadn't stood up, in the civil rights movement and in, various movements for change, for justice, for LGBTQ rights, and women's rights. And, absolutely, we need to work for change. But what's really important is, what often gets left out in movements for change is that we really need to need to bring into our work for change that inner acceptance of the truth of what the situation is, rather than going into those activities and that work with an attitude of clinging or hatred or greed or, any of these afflictive states, because then what happens, of course, is it just perpetuates the suffering. We're actually bringing suffering to suffering, and that's a recipe for more suffering. So somebody said it as first presence, then speech, action, whatever needs to be done, that to ground ourselves in the truth of, can I accept the truth of this is what's here right now? Yes, it's unjust and it's here. Can I open to this situation, this person, this experience, without creating the unreal other, that, two-dimensional, you're not really real, so I can do whatever I like to you because, you're that kind of person, you're that kind of group, you're that, we create that separation. Then it's just more and more and more suffering. So absolutely finding that balance. And to answer the question, Jenna, it's really, the question gets answered in the practice of like seeing when we do get caught up in othering and separation, and then can I come back? Can I meet this person, this situation who I might disagree with in profound ways, still see their humanity and enter into that, whatever needs to be done, the demand, the request for change, for a response, with compassion, with understanding, with discernment, so that that's what we're always working towards. That what is wise action? What is wise and compassionate action in this moment, in this situation? And a lot of that is to see when we're moving towards unwise action or unkind action, and to kind of, okay, can I include this person in my loving kindness? Can I include this experience in that? So, those are some reflections, but it's always going to be, in practice, what is kind and what is wise and what is appropriate. But it is, it's a really important, essential question. Thank you for raising that, Jenna. Bob, lovely to hear from you.
Thank you, Hugh. I love what you just shared, and I love that question. And I just wanted to come back. I had not heard the James Baldwin quotation that you used. Essentially, not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. And it's a paradox, but it builds on what you just said. Not only will our action be wiser if we're first able to face things we don't like, or people that we don't like, or behavior that we don't like, but paradoxically, by facing it in a thoughtful way rather than just getting caught up in our emotions, I actually believe it makes us more capable of achieving the changes, of trying to change the injustice that we see. And I think we're caught up at a time in the world right now where wherever you stand, people forget that. It's as if I don't get really angry, and if I don't move to hate, I'm going to lose my sense of righteous anger. And actually, if you naturally are going to get angry, your heart's going to quiver when you see wrong. But if you do that in the wise way that you just described, and what you talked about today, it was just an incredible talk. It really makes you more powerful and more able to confront it, in my view. And I just wanted to share that. I'm very passionate about this topic of avoiding the unreal other and maintaining compassion while you maintain passion for justice. Thank you.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for that sharing, Bob. That's beautiful. Yeah, for myself, I can't think of anything more important in our world today, with all the conditions that you're referring to, Bob, of, all the differences and the divisions and the, just the existential challenges we face in so many different areas, how I think nothing can be more important than that question of having the passion for change, but bringing an attitude and a quality of compassion, of kindness into that, so that, that we're looking for win-win solutions rather than zero sum. I win, you lose, I lose, you win. Whatever. It's what Martin Luther King said. That we'll respond to your hatred with love, and we'll win a double victory because we'll win you over by keeping you in our hearts. We'll win you to change, not by defeating you, but by convincing you and by keeping our hearts open. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but a beautiful quote from him. Let's just take Sam, and because we are coming to time, just share, and I won't even respond, but just if you'd like to share what you have to share, and also Achala, and then we'll finish. If you could just do it within a minute or so, and then we'll just have a couple of minutes for announcements. So Sam, please.
Okay. So what I wanted to share is that I noticed that everything that I look at, like on the internet, or like even when I'm going to people's seminars, has claims. And sometimes these claims may or may not be based on evidence. And we go in it with the confirmation bias. We want to confirm what we believe. But then after a while, we go and we sort of question it. Maybe this doesn't make quite sense. So then we go back and we go, well, then we search for the opposite opinion. And then we find out that what we've been spending all our time on doesn't necessarily work for our situation. So it's kind of interesting how that works, and how the confirmation bias sort of drives us towards what we believe, and we get stuck in that.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, a lot of wisdom in that. I won't comment, so we'll just have a chance to hear from Achala, and then we'll have announcements and finish, and then we'll have some time if people want to share a little bit afterwards. Achala, can you just briefly share your reflection? I know you've shared in the chat as well, so people.
I'll try to. This is just so I actually responded to your email perfect, because this is so what's going on with me right now. Not being so distracted by either my internal conditions or my reaction, not reacting, but rather responding and being able to pause so that I can use, I'm experiencing all my feelings, my grief, my sadness, my hurt, but also gratitude and what my actual intentions are. Like literally, what does that feel like if I were to be able to experience that in my body? That's something I'm working with, and I'm able to sit with my real core feelings for longer and longer, and also for shorter and shorter, because when I allow them, I'm not resisting. I love, you use the word inclusion, that everything's welcome. So just including and allowing and acknowledging the truth inside and outside, and then interacting with it from my best self, like in the face of being bullied or I have enormous things going on in my life. Who doesn't? It's called life. And if I'm experiencing it, I'm experiencing both the aversiveness and also all the bliss and childlike wonder and magic that I'm now getting by allowing the aversion, even just like stupid stuff like, my eyelids are itchy when I'm trying to meditate. How dare my eyelids be itchy? But some of it's really, really powerful, like memory pain from things I did not acknowledge because I couldn't. But that's coming up now because I'm willing to be sitting in my full experience. And it goes back and it goes back and it goes back to what's the original thing, the real thing. And I just really want to say, seeing that I can be my best, the best daughter, the best leader, somebody who speaks up, but doesn't need to be screaming about stuff or even be distracted off of what, I hope I said this, my gratitude and my intentions, like being present, where am I right now? What do I need to be doing right now to be the person, my divine self, and interacting with the divine in all people? And just, sometimes I just have to let it go because people and situations are lost causes. And I'm talking too long, and I don't know if I made any sense. My shares were so long because this is so massive for me right now. And I don't recommend it to everybody. It's been enormously painful. But the other thing is that there is hope and growing connection and growing confidence in my instincts that have been there all along and that were buried for periods of time. And it's just, I wrote that in the chat too, just coming back and returning to the moment, to myself, and to my connection with the universe. That's a lot. I'm shutting up.
Thank you, Achala. Thank you for sharing that. That was lovely. I think I got a lot out of it, and I think others probably did as well. We're going to finish up. I'm just going to share. I don't think I have any immediate announcements, except I'm going to mention, as we do each week, that this class is open to everybody, and everybody is welcome and included. It's lovely that it's available. That's the wish for us, that anyone who feels they can benefit can come along. No cost. If you are able and if you're inclined, you're invited to make a donation. Deb has shared in the chat how you can do that through the links there. And as I mentioned, this is a tradition of dana, D-A-N-A, generosity, that's come down to us through 2,500 years from the time of the Buddha, and it's in many Asian traditions of kind of giving and receiving, and being in different roles at different times. And we are committed to continue this tradition in this very different culture today in our society. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your kindness if you choose to make a donation.